Welcome back. Let's go deeper, because the St. Patrick's Day you see today, it's not the real story, not even close. Because behind the green clothes, the parties, the leprechauns, and the beer, there's a story that most people have never actually heard, and it starts with a kidnapped boy. St. Patrick wasn't Irish. He was born in Britain into a Christian family. His father was a deacon, his grandfather was a priest. But Patrick himself, he didn't really care about faith, not yet. That changed when he was about 16 years old. Raiders came, they captured him, and took him across the sea to Ireland. And just like that, his life was gone. He was sold into slavery. For years, Patrick lived in isolation, cold, hungry, alone, watching sheep on hills with no one to talk to. And this is where everything shifts, because in that silence, he started to pray. Not casually, constantly. He later said he prayed over 100 times a day, not because he was religious, but because he was desperate. And something happened in that desperation. His faith became real. After years of captivity, Patrick had a dream. A voice told him it was time to escape, so he ran. He traveled for miles, found a ship, and somehow made it back home. He was free. Now most people would end the story there. Escape, survive, move on, but Patrick didn't, because later he had another vision. And in that vision he saw the people of Ireland, the same people who enslaved him, calling him back. Think about that. The place that broke him. He felt called to return to, not for revenge, not for justice, but to share his faith. And that's exactly what he did. He went back to Ireland, not as a slave, but as a missionary. And over time, he began teaching people about Christianity. Now here's where something powerful and often misunderstood comes in. The shamrock. That little green clover everyone wears. Patrick used it as a teaching tool, 3 leaves, 1 plant, to explain something incredibly complex, the Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. 3, yet 1. Simple, memorable, and it worked. Over time, Patrick became one of the most influential figures in Ireland's Christian history. But here's where things start to change. Because everything you see today, the green, the leprechauns, the parties, that didn't come from Patrick, not at all. In fact, originally the color associated with St. Patrick was blue, not green. Green came later because of Ireland itself, known as the Emerald Isle, and because of Irish nationalism. And the leprechaun? That comes from Irish folklore, not Christianity. Leprechauns were mythical creatures, tiny tricksters guarding pots of gold. They were never part of Patrick's story. So how did all of this come together? How did a man who lived through slavery, suffering, faith, and forgiveness turn into a global party with costumes and alcohol? The answer is time and culture. As Irish immigrants spread around the world, especially to places like America, they brought their traditions with them. St. Patrick's Day became a way to celebrate Irish identity. Parades started, communities gathered, and over generations the meaning slowly shifted. From a religious remembrance to a cultural celebration, and then to what it is today, a mix of history, myth, identity, and entertainment. So now we have to ask something real. Are we celebrating St. Patrick, or a version of him that never really existed? Are we remembering the man who forgave his captors, or just wearing green and moving on? Because the truth is, his story isn't about luck, it's not about gold, and it's definitely not about partying. It's about transformation. A boy who didn't care about faith became a man who couldn't live without it. A slave returned as a messenger, and someone who suffered deeply chose forgiveness instead of anger. That's the real story, and maybe that's the part worth remembering.